What's going on, guys? I'm Eli. Welcome back to another video. I have not made a YouTube video in a hot second. I think it's been about 5 weeks since I've made a video on my own cars. So I wanted to hit you guys with an update and the reason why we're at kind of a standstill with the videos. A lot of you may know, and if you don't, now you do. I was thinking about selling the SQ5 for a while, so I hadn't touched the SQ5 at all. The market on the SQ5 has gone down the absolute toilet. And so I've decided to keep the car, mostly because I don't feel like losing half the value of the car in 18 months. It's really rough on trading. There were a couple RS7s that I was looking at that I was thinking about trading into, and well, I just didn't end up doing it. I couldn't stomach losing that much on the SQ5. So the SQ5 is staying. I did take the injectors out of it and the fuel pump. So I was thinking about selling it, obviously, and I was going to part it out, put it back to stock, and trade it in. So I started that part out journey. I realized I wasn't going to sell the car, and so stopped that part out journey. And honestly, for the B9, the most enjoyable way to do them without too many sacrifices is a bigger turbo. I have the Pure 750, and I love it. An aftermarket downpipe because it's so easy to swap back to stock for inspection. A downpipe on the SQ5 could not be easier. And you know, intercooler, intake, that kind of fun stuff that doesn't really affect emissions, but that is where the B9 is most enjoyable. Once you start doing the injectors and the fuel pump, you're really only making extra power on the E70 blend. Your everyday gas mileage goes down, and it's kind of just not worth it. So, I mean, I liked my SQ5 the most before I did the, I need to do brakes on this car. We'll talk about that in a second. I liked my SQ5 the most before I did the injectors and the fuel pump, and then it was great afterwards. I mean, the thing was a rocket ship on on the E70 map, but it just wasn't. I don't know, the best overall, if you're not going for all-out speed setup, I think, is a bigger turbo and not getting into the injectors and the fuel pump. My personal opinion. Anyway, so the SQ5 is staying for the short term. That is on daily duty for my son's mom, which means that I have been dailying the B5. Now, if you remember, we tuned the B5, it must have been the beginning of summer. I think it must have been June. And the clutch started slipping. I still have that clutch in this car. I don't currently have the luxury of letting this car be down. So I have friends, my homies Omar, Cam, those guys that can help me swap the motor in the weekend, or rather pull the motor, do the mounts and stuff. 034 sent me motor mounts, trans mounts, and the snub mount for this car. And I have a JHM clutch waiting for it. But if I don't get it done in the weekend or something like that, we're down to one car, and that makes my everyday kind of driving situation a little bit more complicated. So as a result, I've been putting off doing the clutch on this car, which has led me to start hunting for a third car. Before I start talking about the third car, I want to update you on a couple things on the B5. After I conclude filming this video, tonight I will be installing bigger brakes on this car. I got some 18Zs for it, and JHM sent me a whole bunch of hardware. So again, as always, shout out to the homies at JH Motorsport. Those guys are the real deal, and they are supporting these vintage Audis. 034 as well. Cool people involved in this B5 project. Along with the big brakes, we have to do a clutch. Like I said, we have clutch, we have motor mounts, we have trans mounts. And then over the winter, my plan is also to source a set of injectors for this car and an upgraded Walboro pump for the in-tank pump, so that when spring rolls around, or maybe even in the winter, I don't know. If I buy this third car, I might not even be dailying this anymore. I'd like to put this car on an E85 tune. If you're in the B5 community, it's technically a stage 3 minus is what they call it, is KO3 turbos, which are the stock turbos with E85 in the system. That is going to make my stock turbos leave the chat pretty quickly from what I understand. But I'm okay with that. Because I would eventually like to do a single turbo setup on this car, stock motor to start, and then once we pop a stock motor, we'll go from there. But I have a lot of things that I want to do to this car, and I'm kind of stuck because I need it as a daily right now. So that brings us to the daily situation, which I was pretty convinced was going to be a Porsche Cayenne or a Touareg. I looked at a couple V10 TDIs. I looked at a couple V8s. Kind of boring. I don't think anybody will watch that. The Cayenne's pretty hot right now for overland stuff, so I was like, do I buy myself a Cayenne S? There were a couple GTSs that I followed up on. The one that I really wanted sold as soon as I started messaging the guy. And then if you missed the last video from like 3 weeks ago at this point, I drove Matt's 3-liter swapped A4 Avant, which has got me thinking that maybe I want to build a swap car. So I'm like, I could buy an A4 as a daily, pull the motor on this car, do the mounts, that kind of stuff, make it ready to roll, and then do the swap on the A4. And then we started talking about all roads, and I don't know, there's a lot of options there, but it's looking like I may get myself into a wagon as opposed to into a Touareg or Cayenne, which is kind of a bummer, but you could do the overland thing with an all-road. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Different All-Road on Instagram. We could kind of follow in his steps and maybe make it a little bit, you know, cooler with a 3.0 in it instead of a 2.0. So I don't know, if you like that idea, let me know in the comments. Either that, I mean, a 3.0 swapped all-road is cool no matter what. And then we have to make a transmission choice. Do we go with the manual transmission? Do we go with the ZF transmission? Do we put a DSG in it? There's a lot of options here. If I were to summarize this video, the SQ5 is staying for the short term. Unless I find a crazy deal on an RS7, then I don't know, maybe I'll decide to lose a lot of money on the SQ5. The B5 needs a bunch of stuff done to it. The stuff cannot be done until I have a third car to daily. Third car, potentially an all-road, potentially A4 Avant, potentially a Cayenne still. I don't know, I go back and forth. I really like the idea of like bombing through the snow in some overland, big tire SUV, like off-road kind of deal, but realistically, it's probably just gonna get daily around town. So like, do I need an SUV to daily around town? Not really. It would be nice to haul bigger things than what the SQ5 can haul, but Cayenne's not that much bigger, and the Touareg is pretty much the same size. I've been trying to get together with my buddy with a, we'll call it 800-ish horsepower TTRS, and my other buddy with a 800-ish horsepower VR6 swapped B5 S4 to film their cars, get you some interesting content there while my stuff isn't really happening. So if you'd like to see that as well, definitely let me know in the comments. That's all I got for you guys. That's the IgnitionTube fleet update, October 2023. Holy cow, that was a big pothole. I'm glad I dodged that. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for enduring the silence from me. I'm doing my best to bring back the videos. We got a paint corrected B5 too. The B5 still got some wicked swirls on it. So there's more stuff coming. Give me a little bit of time. I have been making an effort to be active on Instagram, not so much on the posts, but on the stories, so I can interact with you guys. You can send me messages, I respond there. If you haven't already, give me a follow on Instagram, and we can stay in touch and talk more than on YouTube every 3 weeks. But I'm aiming to get back to weekly videos like we've done in the past for so long, and I'll keep you guys posted on that journey. Thank you so much for watching. Go out there and spread some positivity, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. 2 cameras, I can do that.